guys.
Hey, kids, who's ready to make some money?
Or talk about video games.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Or both.
Well, welcome to the Level Up Yours podcast, E3 edition, featuring Jordan, David, and me, Will.
Yeah, is this a little late? Yes, it is. But, hey, we got to talk about it sometime.
Yeah, better late than never.
Yep.
So, as you guys likely saw, we did reaction streams of the various E3 press conferences that happened, what was it, last week? I think?
Yeah, I think like 2.
Okay. So we are kind of late to the party on this whole discussion thing, but...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're a little late, but deal with it.
Yeah, we can express our thoughts a bit. And we didn't see all of the conferences. Sadly, Jordan had to see a lot of ours in posting, because
I had
he had a
work
lot
and
of...
other things.
He had his work, and David and I were the only ones available to do so, except for the Square Enix stream, which you guys certainly remember.
Yeah. But, I was able to join in. I watched a couple of the other ones y'all didn't, such as the Devolver. And, I got my opinions on that. I'll probably bring up in a bit.
Yeah. But first comes Xbox's conference, or as I titled it.
Actually. First comes love, then comes marriage.
Then comes Keanu in an angel carriage. There. I transitioned.
That's cringy, dude. That's pretty cringy.
I transitioned, guys. I'm a pro.
Yeah, I mean, thank God Keanu's a meme.
Yeah. Yeah.
He always will be.
I mean, I'm literally looking at our Discord thing right now, and I just see that Metro Man, what was it, from Megamind, where it's Keanu's face photoshopped onto him.
It does work.
It does work, and for the purposes of, most of the E3 conferences this year, it makes sense, because, let's be frank, guys, some of the games that were shown were kind of lackluster. Kind of a lackluster E3 overall for me.
Yeah, I would say the C3 was a little bit of a meh.
Yeah.
But I think there's still a lot to look forward to. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Not that there weren't things that, not that there weren't things that you can't look forward to. I'm looking forward more to Cyberpunk 2077.
I think everyone is.
Especially, not just
this game's been teased
thing.
Almost 4 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nothing but hype.
Yeah.
So I freaking love it. I'm a big fan of Deus Ex, and I feel like this may be the actual kind of like spiritual successor to Deus Ex in many ways.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hell yeah. Cannot wait for Cyberpunk.
And funny enough, shortly after that announcement, one of the guys in my D&D group, he started up us creating characters for the Cyberpunk tabletop game.
Ooh.
And I ended up making a character that is just really funny, and I hope to God that the character creation in Cyberpunk is extensive enough for me to be able to make him in there.
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
I mean, obviously they don't have all of the classes, but I just look at this and I'm like, man, I want to make Casanova in Cyberpunk.
You named your dude Casanova.
Yes, because in his backstory, which you actually have to roll for, I ended up getting a lot of past romances, and I ended up rolling the personality of a guy that is very shy and secretive and has a very big self-preservation ego.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop you here. Although I'm going to talk more about tabletop content later, today we talk about video games.
Yeah, today we talk about video games.
So, yeah, Cyberpunk 2077, Halo coming back to the PC. We got Ghostwire Tokyo. We're getting another Watch Dogs game. Baldur's Gate 3, the new Doom. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. We're all holding our breath. Borderlands.
Well, for those of you that are Star Wars fans.
Shut up, Trekkie.
I'm not a Trekkie either. The only Star Trek stuff I've ever seen, and I mean ever seen, was an episode of the of the William Shatner show, that was only to prepare us to see Wrath of Khan. That's it. That's all I've seen.
God.
Khan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we just keep getting off topic. So how about this, everyone? If you enjoy our content and you want us to straighten the hell up, please hit that subscribe button.
Or something. Maybe say something in the comments.
I was expecting Miku to show up, but I guess not. Yep, still not showing up. Dang. But yeah, okay. So you want to talk about the Xbox conference? I'm cool with that. I know you're a PlayStation guy, so
well, PlayStation didn't have a conference this year, so
well,
it was up to Xbox.
Exactly. So how does that make you feel?
I mean, PlayStation, granted, has kind of lost a lot of the big, I don't know, goodwill, I guess you'd say, because last year's conference for them, like 2018 E3, was kind of meh, because, you know, they only showed off 4 big IPs and maybe a couple of other things that were interesting, but I don't know, maybe they're just trying to stockpile stuff to eventually drop a whole bunch of things, along with any kind of announcements of a new console, like how Microsoft announced the Scarlet.
Yeah, I don't think it was a good announcement, honestly. How do you feel about the announcement? Like, we know the next console generation's coming up. We've heard about Project Scarlet in the background before. Now this is just the official announcement. We didn't get a lot of details, didn't see a prototype machine. Only thing we really know is xCloud is going to be a big part of it, that they're really focusing on streaming as an aspect of the new console generation.
Well,
so what do you think?
They want to make generations of streamers for all of their games. Streamers are the best kind of advertisers, after all.
I'd say that's arguable, but yeah. It's definitely the way of the times.
It is. I just know that when the PlayStation 5 gets announced in some capacity, I'm gonna hold my breath a bit on it, because I've heard a lot of, you know, rumors going around of like, oh, it's got the architecture, whatever the term is, of the PS4, which means PS4 games could be backwards compatible. Which, if that's true, awesome. But
yeah, and they're also doing it with a certain type of architecture to try and like get rid of all load times or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know how it's supposed to work, but like I heard, PS5, no more load times, and I'm like,
I'm one of those weirdos that doesn't mind load times.
Yeah, I don't mind a few seconds, you know, if it takes a little bit of buffer.
Half a minute of waiting for the game to load. I could have a nice drink of coffee whilst I wait.
I mean, I'm a PC guy. If it's half a minute, I'm like, what? Why is it taking so long?
I only wait longer than a minute or two if I'm loading up like a 200 mod pack on Minecraft.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than Keanu Reeves and Cyberpunk,
he stole the show.
And God, I'm actually having trouble trying to remember a lot of other things. There was that Overwatch Melee ripoff thing.
I'm actually kind of excited for it. I've been watching like a little bit more in the background. I looked at the character designs. I'm going to give it a try. I've actually decided that game has enough creativity going on with some of the character designs. I'm going to give it a try.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, I don't know how I feel about another battle royale, but it's in an arena, and some of these characters actually look pretty cool.
I just remember there was also that game that I got super excited about. David can reiterate for me, or no, he can vouch for me on this. Another game developed by the company Thunder Lotus, and it's essentially this game where you help raise spirit beings or gods.
Oh yeah, you kept talking about that.
Yeah.
Like,
God,
that looks
I hate to say this, but you can tell we watched this like 2 weeks ago, and we just barely remember.
Yeah, we just... Well, it kind of goes to show how unspectacular a lot of these conferences were if we're having trouble remembering most of them.
Okay, here's my thing. Most spectacular conference of all of them was the one you guys didn't watch, and that's Devolver. best conference, in my opinion, of any of the conferences this year.
Well, I mean,
and half of it is just the fact they said, screw having an actual conference. We're just going to rip off Nintendo Treehouse and make it post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a 30-minute weird future cyberpunk, like, twisted advertisement, and I love it. I was just like, dude, I could just watch this on repeat. It's great.
Yeah. No amount of
Just,
John
it's
Bernthal's
funny.
dog or adorable Japanese game developers can solve that.
Yeah, no, I was just like, adorable Japanese game developer. She's nice. I like her. She brings good energy. She's kind of funny. Keanu Reeves, oh man, no one kill a dog at this conference.
And then John Bernthal brings his dog.
Yeah, I was like, oh man. Y'all actually went out and said, okay, we're going to do a treehouse, but we're going to do it a little better and actually make a bit of a critique of the modern gaming climate. Plus, we got that My Friend Pedro game coming out, like on the Switch from them,
yeah.
and I'm loving a lot of the stuff they show. They got one where it's like you're a monster, you're freaking chest bursting people traveling around with tendrils, just trying to break out of this lab, and I'm like, that's awesome. Then you got that like weird, it's like Gang Beast almost in design, but it's a racing game, and you're like going over obstacle courses, and I'm like, that looks fun. The only disappointment for me was, I know you're working on Serious Sam 4, and y'all don't bring it up. Like, you've given us screenshots. You've, kind of been hinting, hey, we're still working on Serious Sam 4. And then you go to E3, nothing. I'm like, damn, that's the one game I came for. But everything else was great. So, like, I'm not too mad.
Yeah, I mean, you came to Bethesda for Doom, and I
Hell yeah.
went for Elder Scrolls 6. Anything, like a screenshot, like a new bit on where this will take place on Tamriel, but nothing.
Well, here's my thing. Screw Elder Scrolls. We got Elden Ring. Elden Ring's coming out now. And I'm like, Bethesda, it just works. Y'all are turning into a really crummy company. Screw off. I'm trying out Elden Ring. I'm ready to see Bethesda burn.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, we got the Outer Worlds coming out, which, I'm like, okay, this is a little more sci-fi. It's not Fallout, but it's made by the people from Fallout. I see a lot of the things I like about Fallout in here, and I'm like, it's not that 76 bullshit you tried to pawn off on us.
Or tried to continue pawning off, saying like, hey guys, we know how bad it is. We're going to try and develop it to make it better. Well, guess what? People won't care.
I mean, they've updated a few things to where now it's meh, but I think the damage was just done.
Yeah.
That's the same problem with Anthem. These live service games, they're like, okay, we can ship it out unpolished because we're going to update it into something nice and get a lot of community feedback. That only works if you have enough there for the community to stick around for you to do it.
Exactly. If you don't have, like, you can't just put out a plate full of crackers and then promise you'll buy the cheese and meats later.
Yeah, it's like, enjoy my crackers. If y'all ask nicely enough, I might get a little of those tiny hams and some cheese.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
But at least
I don't know what you people are talking about, but crackers are delicious.
Dude, I love crackers.
They're not salty.
I'm just saying, you gotta dress them up a little too.
I will eat a sleeve of Ritz if I'm that. I have no problem.
Okay, I'm calling it now. This has been so discombobulated of a discussion. Like, this is just us trying to talk about E3. Well, include that in the title. Don't lie to anyone. We're really not talking about it. We're trying to.
We're trying to.
This is an attempt.
What I can say is, and David, I think you can agree with me on this, the worst conference out of this whole thing, I believe, was Ubisoft.
Definitely.
The only thing the only two things that were interesting out of that conference for me were Watch Dogs Legion, but only because you could shoot guys and kick people in the shins as little old ladies, and John Bernthal bringing his dog. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there.
But even then, his dog looked completely disinterested.
Well, I mean, it's a dog.
Still, though.
I don't think a dog.
What is he supposed to be like? Squeaking toys on the stage and just trying to, like interest this dog and give you a dog show? It's E3.
A dog show would have been better than whatever Ubisoft brought to the table.
Okay, I'll give you that.
The only thing I actually remember, again, besides John Bernthal and his dog, was Watch Dogs Legion. That was, I mean, again, once the old lady was brought in and I saw that animation where she kicks this, like, fully decked out officer in the shin and then stuns him with a stun gun. Oh my god. But even then, no significant memes really came out of that one.
Yeah.
So after that, it's easy for us to say, and you and David can agree with me on this, Nintendo
won.
Nintendo
won E3. Like, they win.
Yeah.
They hit the ground running. It's hard. I just have an article pulled up. Luigi's Mansion 3 and Link's Awakening are nominated for the best console games of E3. I mean, yeah, Nintendo kicked ass. They were like, we are here to kick ass and play video games. We got to meet Bowser. I don't think he's going to be as awesome as Reggie, but at the same time, I'm like, you're not bad. I like the little intro where they were going to have Bowser, like from Mario doing it.
Do the whole thing, like, and then hilarious. Actual Doug Bowser comes in and he's like, "You're not the right Bowser for this conference." And secretly in my head, I was just like, "But he kind of is."
Yeah, no, I would actually love it what if they made Doug Bowser actually voice Bowser?
That would be hilarious.
That'd be great. That would be hilarious. Like Super
Mario RPG remake with full voice acting and have Doug Bowser voice Bowser.
That or like at the conference, just have, Lakitu come in and like cast a spell on Bowser and you like see the spirit of Doug Bowser float over him and it's almost like a stand for a second and just speak to Bowser.
I think you mean Magic Koopa.
Oh, Magic Koopa. Yeah, which one's Lakitu?
Lakitu's the one on the cloud that holds up cameras.
Yeah, that's why. I was thinking flying Mario enemy, but there you go. Yeah, Magic Koopa. You can tell I haven't played Mario recently.
So from Nintendo's little E3 Direct, a lot of cool stuff got shown. The release date for Daemon X Machina, which Jordan's really excited for on top of myself.
Dude, I'm so excited for Daemon X Machina. Like, just on Twitter, I love seeing the fact that they're actually updating the game, that the demo they sent out was a real beta build. They're taking feedback. There's a little more recoil to the guns. The guns are making more sound. It no longer auto-runs you back into the fray. Like when you step out of bounds, there's just a timer now, so you're not getting shot up. They made takeoff and descent faster. I mean, they're making a lot of little quality of life improvements right now. And I just got to say, like, as a fan of Mecha, like, if anyone listening to this has a Switch and you like mech games and you're sad people don't make enough, Daemon X Machina isn't the best, okay? This is not going to revolutionize mech games forever, but it's a good attempt. And I say it is something new. Support it. Because if people see that, yeah, there's mech fans out there who want to fly around in giant robots blowing stuff up, they'll make more games about giant flying robots blowing stuff up.
Show that there's a market for this stuff.
Yes!
So besides that, there was also the way that the Direct started. At least I believe this was the first thing that they showed. Which was the announcement of the hero from Dragon Quest being added into Smash Brothers.
Yeah. Only the Japanese care about that. You
I
know
care
who we
about
all
it.
came for? We came for Banjo and Kazooie.
I care about the Heroes Edition. I mean, granted, I also am happy for all those Banjo fans, but I care about the hero being added.
I know you do. You're a weep.
And guess what? Like, the reason why the Japanese care about it is so much is that, I've told you this before, Dragon Quest is huge in Japan. Like, unofficial holiday
is.
whenever a game is released, huge.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh, I know. And that's the point of the joke.
Yeah, and guess what?
But, yeah.
Also, because this is Akira Toriyama's art style that we're looking at with the hero, this is the closest we'll ever get to actually having Goku in Smash Brothers.
How dare you?
So, yeah, it turns out one of my predictions from, God, what was it? Our Red Dead Redemption Awards podcast.
Yeah.
One of my predictions was correct.
Yep. And hey, my hope for Banjo and Kazooie was also confirmed. So I'm really happy to see that. I would love them to just announce a new Banjo game or an HD remake.
Yeah, so the Smash announcements definitely had us in the good old thumbs up move. 2 announcements in 1 direct.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
About time.
About time. As for the other stuff that was shown, the release date for Dragon Quest Definitive Edition on Switch, that I'm excited for because, like, 1, Jordan will finally get to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, this is going to be the version that everybody will go to because, you know, Dragon Quest XI was a fine enough game on its own, but it could have used a few things to push it in the right direction, one of which would have been an orchestrated soundtrack, and that's what the Switch version is going to have.
Yeah. And honestly, if we're talking RPGs, 1, I love seeing the Tales of collections coming out on the Switch.
Yes.
And also, I'm amazed, we get something from the PlayStation fanboys, and it's that Ni no Kuni, the remaster, is also coming to Switch, I believe.
Yeah, the remaster of the first game.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy God, that's really freaking cool.
Yep. So that's certainly a plus for everybody. And another one, and granted, this is something I never really talk about, but I love Luigi's Mansion, and Luigi's Mansion 3 looks like fun.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that.
And I've heard nothing but positive things when it comes to the demo.
Mm-hmm. No, I like it. I like that it's kind of mixing the style between the first game and the 3DS game. You know, like
the only thing that I wish is that neat. The only thing I wish is that the ghosts themselves had a bit more variance into their looks.
But that's kind of the 3DS game's fault.
I know, but the 3DS had limited hardware and the Switch is more powerful. Mm-hmm. Like, could they at least, like, change the colors of them so that they're not all monotone, same color? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that. I liked that about the first game. Like, you knew what kind of strategy to use on each ghost because you'd learn, like, oh, this color meant this. They react this way.
Or, hey, this pink ghost enemy is like a stronger version of this orange ghost enemy.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I liked having color. Like, it's a Mario game. End of the day, like, Mario's colorful. It has its creepy moments, but the art style's always been colorful.
Yeah. But either way, it looks like fun. And using the Guiji thing to solve puzzles looks like it'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be.
So, besides...
Also, before we switch to another console or anything, I do want to bring it up. I know neither of you probably care, but Panzer Dragoon. I am so excited for Panzer Dragoon.
I'm happy that you're happy.
Yeah, like, that came out for the Sega Saturn, and I am a huge Sega fanboy. Most people who know me closely know that. I have every Sega console ever made and a pretty decent collection for them.
And considering that we went to an anime convention where there was a Sonic decaled motorcycle...
Yeah! I was like, oh, dude, that's awesome. But, yeah, I'm hoping, like, this does well, and they remake all the Panzer Dragoon games on the Switch. I would love to see the Xbox one, like the original Xbox. They had a Panzer Dragoon. It's Orta. Come over. I'd love to see the RPG Panzer Dragoon Saga come over. Heck, I would literally take a 1-to-1, just like bring the original games in as a collection and then sell the HD ones separate. I would buy both.
Yeah.
I love the series, and I love shmups and flight games and stuff. So I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm flying on a dragon again, shooting laser beams. What more can I ask for?
That's fair. But one other thing that was announced at the Switch, at the Nintendo Direct, that got me pretty surprised was that The Witcher 3 is coming to Switch.
Yeah, no, that actually was surprising. Like, it's a bit of a downgrade. We all know it's not going to look as good as it does on PC, but the fact you got a game of that size and scope to run well on what is essentially a portable console, that's just downright impressive.
It is, and I'm glad that Nintendo fans now get to experience the incredible story of The Witcher 3, because I'm a huge fan of the Witcher series. I own all of the books that the games are based off of. I played through The Witcher 3 twice, so fair to say, I am definitely going to be getting this one because it's also going to include all of the DLC. So,
I mean, it's Ultimate Collection.
It's Ultimate Collection. And guess what? It's
okay
also coming with all of the free DLC that the game's first release came with, on top of 2 wolf head stickers.
I do like the stickers.
So yeah, I highly suggest you guys get The Witcher 3 if you own a Switch, because it's just a fantastic RPG.
It is. And that's one thing I'm liking about the Switch. It's getting such a varied and large library.
Yeah, I would not have suspected that CD Projekt Red would work with them of all people.
Dude, CD Projekt Red's a great company. I love what they do. Like, I never saw a problem with them trying to work with anyone.
Yeah.
Now, did I think that game could be ported to the Switch? No, but I'm happily surprised.
Yeah, and now the chances of Geralt being in Smash Brothers has now increased tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god. If he's announced for Smash Brothers, I mean, I got my character. I'm going to be happy for anyone who gets him, because that would just be cool.
It would.
I mean, I wouldn't be happy just for the reason it's another sword character, but maybe
Geralt.
You could actually have him switch stances.
It's Geralt.
That could be cool.
It's Geralt.
I know. And that's my thing. Like, I'm happy. Also, the collector's edition of freaking Doom. God. Yeah. I know that wasn't announced at the Nintendo thing, but God, I'm so excited.
Fair enough on you.
Yeah, I'm going to have a Doom Guy helmet. It's great.
Speaking of RPGs, there was also Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I'm the only real big Fire Emblem fan in this center right now, so take my word with a grain of salt when I say this. It's almost becoming like a Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee situation on my end.
Really?
The more I see of it, the less and less enthusiastic I get for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's how I felt when I saw, like, I love the 3DS games. There's a reason they've saved the series, but the more and more I look at Three Houses, I'm just like...
Not that I think it's going to be bad. I just think, like, it's not worth getting overly hyped for. There was a bit of news around that game that when it dropped, I wanted to get on my knees and thank whoever made that decision. And correct me if I'm wrong if any updates came out about this, but there are going to be no child units in Three Houses.
Yeah, that ticks me off.
No, it doesn't tick me off. I'm happy about it. Because
I enjoy that aspect of it, though. Like,
I sure as fuck found it really detractive once Fates tried to bring it in.
To me, it makes some sense, though. Like, with the overarching story, it's a good way to get new units. It makes you choose, like, relationships pretty well. I don't know. It gives me a reason to get invested in certain other characters that I may just put in the back lines of my garrison,
Yeah, I can understand what you mean by that, but seeing the way that these characters can develop with other ones is the reason why support systems are so popular in the Fire Emblem series, it's not just so that people could be like, oh, hey, I want this unit to gain this skill and have this kind of stat growth. You two better pop this baby out.
But I like that. I like grinding for things. That's just a rewarding thing for me. So
in any case, I just got tired of having the David, do you have Vocaloid on doing my voice?
No.
Why do you have it on?
Why do I have what on? Oh shit.
Professionalism, folks.
Yay! Hey, by the way, I found out what that Battle Royale game is called. It's called Bleeding Edge.
Yeah, Bleeding Edge.
Bleeding Edge looks good. Honestly, I hate to say it, I actually really like Minecraft Dungeon.
I mean, do you mean Minecraft Diablo?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, okay, it's Diablo, but kid-friendly? I don't know. It looks good, though. I'm tired of Minecraft. I hate seeing Minecraft keep popping up, but it's a testament to the fact that it's just a really sturdy game.
It's a sturdy game that brings out a ton of memes.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, it survived this long, but I'm glad to see something other than story mode come from it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, story mode wasn't bad. I kind of enjoyed the first part, and then now we get dungeons, and I'm like, okay, at least you're doing something with the IP other than skins.
Yeah, kind of like it's Minecraft is going to be ending up getting a sports game later. It's essentially going to have as many spin-offs as Mario, considering how marketable Minecraft is.
Mm-hmm. Let's
see. What else?
Don't know if y'all are excited, but Phantasy Star Online 2's coming to the US.
I'm happy for you to see that, but I don't have any history with Phantasy Star, so I can't really feel enthusiastic.
Okay, as a Sega fanboy, I am kind of enthusiastic, but I'm also like, I'm jumping in a little late.
Yeah. But one that I did get excited about was the new Tales game, Tales of Arise. And my reasoning, and a lot of people's reasoning, is that now the series actually looks like it's advanced graphically instead of looking like PS3 games from like, what was it, the GameCube games onward. They actually look like they've taken a step forward. Not saying that graphics makes a good game or anything, but
it's nice.
It helps the experience a bit.
I mean, that's one thing that attracted me to Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I mean, it's just the art style and how polished it is. Like, the level of detail to everything in the background. I'm like, yeah, I could be watching a freaking Disney movie almost. Yeah. It looks so good.
Well, I mean, with the game I was telling you about earlier, you could literally feel like you're watching a Disney movie, considering I compared the art style to that of Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, I don't think that's a apt comparison, but, at the same time, I will say I've been seeing it advertised, and it doesn't look bad. I actually am intrigued by it. You've played the demo. I think I'll play it as well. And
we might have a video on it.
It's pretty good. Yeah, like, it looks good. I'm not
We're talking about Chris Tales, by the way.
Chris Tales, yeah.
It's this game that's been advertised around recently. I don't know if it was at E3, but I do know that it's been advertised a lot on YouTube lately. And after I saw that the demo was available on Steam, I was like, oh, I'll give this a shot. So I gave it a shot, and I liked what I tried. And now Jordan's going to hopefully like what he sees.
Yeah. I'm glad Halo's coming back to PC.
Well, I mean, I can't speak much on that front. I'm not a Halo fan.
But now you can try the entire series in HD on your PC.
I'm more of a red versus blue guy.
But here's the thing. By putting it on PC, they now have more tools to make better content, and you can also play with the original game and kind of see what inspired Red versus Blue.
Fair enough.
And I don't know. I love Halo. I think it's a fun series. And I like the idea that I can play ODST with a mouse and keyboard, because ODST is pretty great.
Let's see. I think there was also... there was Watch Dogs, there was the Ghostwire game, there's Cyberpunk.
There's Deathloop.
Deathloop. Oh, 12 minutes! Remember that game? Like that short little trailer that played for that game? It was taking place from like a top-down perspective, and it was showing this husband and wife talking about, they're having a kid, but the husband somehow knows everything in the events that are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, I really don't, but like it sounds familiar.
yeah, essentially it's about a guy caught in the time loop, and you're trying to make sure the best kind of scenario happens.
Cool.
So it looked interesting.
One thing I think you're going to be excited for is the fact they announced Monster Hunters getting an expansion.
Yes, I looked up the price of it. It's like $40 if I get it, and I might as well do so because I saw some stuff from the Iceborne. That's the name of the expansion. The Iceborne expansion's having like all of these different armor sets, having this like a grappling hook mechanic, and some of the weapons are going to get new attacks and new monsters, new biomes. And one of the armors is like a dire wolf armor, and I was immediately like, mine.
Yeah, I mean that's cool, but we all know one thing: it'll never replace the sword and shield.
Well, yeah, you can go ahead on sword and shield, but I'm gonna be I'm gonna be here using switch axe, hammer, and bow.
Ultimate weapon set, sword and shield.
Speaking of sword and shield, sorry for your eardrums, folks.
Oh god, of course I introduced that.
Yeah, speaking of sword and shield, Pokemon. Oh boy, did some stuff get thrown around after the Nintendo Treehouse demo of it.
Yep.
There was a particular line said by a developer. I don't take any problem with it, but a lot of people on the internet have. About how not every Pokemon is going to be in the Galar region and there's no national dex.
Pisses me off.
It doesn't piss me off.
I mean, I'm sorry. You're able to hold how many Pokemon in the Pokemon Bank, make all of them work with Sword and Shield. You have all of these support systems you've developed on the 3DS.
But here's the thing.
You have... Okay.
Here's the deal about that, though. Here's the deal about that. The 3DS is not the same as the Switch. Granted, they're using a lot.
Yeah, you're right. It's not.
And granted, they are using like their same kind of animation style, the same kind of modeling and animations for the Pokemon. But in the end, this is still hardware that they are breaking into for the first time. This is the first mainline Pokemon game on the Switch.
I know. But here's where I'm mad. Okay? You're willing to delay Animal Crossing so that your developers don't get crunch time. Okay? You're willing to make sure that is the best game possible. And it's a good series. I think it needs that attention. But you're downgrading what is essentially a flagship title, getting a console mainline game, and you're not willing to push back its release.
No, I guess not.
To me, that's a problem. Like, as a competitive player, as someone who's spent a lot of time maxing out IVs, who enjoys hatching the eggs, and I like taking my Pokemon from the one game to the next game in the series. The fact that, like, I get Pokemon Bank, now you're announcing Pokemon Home. I'm like, okay, maybe this is an evolution of the service. I'm fine with that. But you're telling me now I can't bring, like, some of my OG Pokemon from the freaking Game Boy Advance games up with me to this new region, when that's been a feature of every last mainline game. That's a downgrade. That is a slap in the face to your quality control.
Maybe it's like the Sun and Moon deal, where it's not so much like there isn't a national dex, it's just that certain Pokemon aren't going to be registered in.
And yeah, it was a problem, but at least it was only a select few. And also, I get maybe wanting to remove Mega Evolutions at this point. It was a gimmick, but you're literally just replacing with Kaiju Pokemon. And only one Pokemon from your team is going to be able to do it. It just boosts their power. They don't get any new form or anything. I don't know. Like, a lot of what I've been hearing about Sword and Shield, the more I see this game, the more I hate it. And I really feel like Pokemon DX, Scale of Darkness, those console games had a different art style. They were trying to push what they could do on the console at the time. I think Coliseum, in many ways, even though they're older, did what they needed to do to put Pokemon combat on console better. And I think this game is just too much of a downgrade. You're literally using the simplest art style you've ever made for continuity, if anything. And you're removing a much larger percent of Pokemon as we know it right now than what happened in Sun and Moon. You're getting rid of old gimmicks you were trying to build upon in your last release with the Z attacks and still keeping in Mega Evolution. And I can maybe understand it if it's like, look, Mega Evolution is something that's been discovered on another continent. It hasn't come over yet, but there has to be at least a written reason in the story for that. And who's to say end-game content couldn't unlock it? Like, once you beat the game and you bring your Pokemon in from the older games like you normally would, if you brought in your Z-Stones, your Mega Stones, that now you can use them after the game because, well, they're from that other content. Like, it's not a part of the main build game, but post-game, okay.
Fair enough.
And yeah, for me, the more I see this, I like some of the designs. I like some of the characters, where they're going with the design.
Nessa.
I really like that, like, green buff dude.
Oh, yeah, Milo.
Yeah, Milo. I love Milo. But, yeah, no. For Pokemon, I feel like they're just dropping the ball. They're taking an easy way out. I feel the backlash is a good thing. I think it's honestly pretty calm.
Well,
but
if people are being honest about this, it's like, so long as you're not attacking the developers and making threats towards them, it's fine to criticize this decision completely.
Exactly.
In fact, it might show like, hey, it might show Game Freak and the Pokemon Company, hey, we might need to start including these Pokemon in through like updates or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
something. Give fans who've stuck with the series, a voice. Just, if we have a criticism, I agree with you. You should never attack developers or people in development directly, but criticism is A-okay.
Yeah.
And
there's a difference between being a critic and being a troll, because I've seen both.
Yeah, there's both on this, and I'm not excusing the people who are just going out there and, throwing tantrums and being trolls, but I do think that the argument is there for this game to be criticized.
Yes.
And
that's
my thing.
Every game.
Yeah, no, and I just think with Pokemon being as long running of a series as it is, it can take a little more criticism than, say, a fresh IP.
Yeah.
And that's where I say, yeah, developers should be held accountable to what fans want at this point.
Yeah.
Because you've built these expectations up over generations.
Yeah, over literal decades.
Yeah. That's the only reason I will be so hard on Pokemon Sword and Shield and say this game really isn't rubbing me the right way.
Yeah. For me,
doesn't mean I'm not going to play it.
Yes, same on my end. It's like, of course we're going to buy it and play it. It's Pokemon. Either way, we're still going to end up catching all the creatures, making fan arts of all the waifus. And just
but that's the thing. It's like, I know we are, but at the same time, I don't feel like Game Freak should get off completely scot-free.
Yeah, and again,
they do need to hear, hey, what's going on,
Yeah, it's the old adage, like, companies you need to show these companies that you do indeed vote with your wallet, and if you're not immediately buying these games day one, they're going to analyze those numbers and think, we aren't getting these immediate numbers. What can we do to make it so that the people do buy it?
Hmm. And that's one thing where I'm like, I'm not a fan of post-release, batch updates, but with how many companies now are really releasing games unpolished, like it's one reason there's very few games I'm buying day one anymore.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm confident that Nintendo is a smart enough company to know that that they're not going to just be like, "Oh, hey, you want this batch that lets you bring all of your Pokemon into Sword and Shield? Give me $5."
Hmm.
That would be how EA would run this situation. Nintendo is a bit more fair when it comes to DLC.
Yeah, and say what you will about Nintendo Online update,
I will say
like
how much ever I
bringing
please, Nintendo
messages.
Online is not very good.
Yeah, it really isn't. What was free content for the first year, and I get them saying, yeah, it's free content for now. We're going to put it behind a paywall. I expect at least Xbox quality
But it's
online
not.
service at that point, and it's not. I mean,
Lord knows I'm not going to spend another $20 on a year of service.
yeah,
I'd rather
their
spend
killer app
$12.
for this service, the main reason to buy it was just online Smash.
Yeah,
Maybe Splatoon still.
maybe
But
Pokemon.
yeah, and that's again, they're going to have just select few killer apps. But the appeal of the Switch never was online multiplayer. It was also just
Playing your
wirelessly
games on the
connecting with your
go.
friend right next to you and games on the go. So I feel it's necessary in today's console market to have an online service, but the sacrifices Nintendo's made to do it, that's where I really have a problem.
Yeah. But either
Uh,
way, it's not like they are doing anything like overly wrong. It
no, they're
does.
not EA.
No, they're not EA. They're not anywhere near that evil. Does it suck that some of the decisions they've made have isolated a lot of people? Yes, but in the end, they are still Nintendo. They are still putting out quality games, and Lord knows all three of us are looking forward to what they can do.
Yeah, no, I love them. I love Nintendo. Switch has been a great console, but yeah, that online service was one thing I was really hoping to see an update on. At least them discuss like, hey, we know not everyone's happy with this, especially when they made the comment like, yeah, we're all about putting smiles on people's faces, and
I
that's
know they
why we
did when
won't
Wooloo was
crunch our
announced.
employees. I'm like, well, there's a lot of people not smiling right now about your online service,
Yeah,
and people have written multiple, multiple status updates on why.
yeah. But then, but then they show Nessa and Wooloo, and they're like, "Oh, Goodwill's back."
Yeah, and that's the thing. I love Wooloo. I'm in the fan base that's saying I really hope the shiny version of that Pokemon's just a black sheep.
Yes.
But
I mean, I'll be sure to tell you if when I find one, not if.
yeah, yeah, you will find one knowing
I
you.
will find one.
But that's my thing. It's just Nintendo as a company, they're good. They have a lot of goodwill. They just make some weird decisions.
Yeah, kind of like how most of the decisions this E3 has been. Granted, you said Devolver Digital was good. I'll
Mhm.
certainly check them out. I didn't have the time to see their conference, or not their conference, their online thing. And all the other conferences were lackluster, save for a few announcements that were really cool, like the Final Fantasy VII thing with Square Enix.
Yeah, I think we can make an entire video on just my critiques of that.
Yeah, or maybe
God,
you and David,
that's
because I have no experience with Final Fantasy VII. I've never played it.
which honestly surprises me.
I, I, I think I'd rather just wait for the remake.
See, I'm thinking I might have to either stream or do a playthrough of it. That way, like, you can at least see it and get a little bit of my thoughts on the OG, maybe get some thoughts of your own before the remake.
That's also fair.
Because one of my main complaints right now is not necessarily that it's going to be episodic, but the fact that they're saying each episode is going to have as much content as a fully fledged new Final Fantasy game. And episode 1
Oh
is
yeah,
only going to take place in Midgar.
That means that there's a very high likelihood that the rest of the game's going to be much further out.
And here's my thing. Best case scenario, and something poetic to me, would be if this was Final Fantasy VII in 7 parts. But even then, that could be released at this rate over the next, let's say, 5 years, if we're lucky. Because God knows they'll be using the same assets, and you'll probably want to start and finish it on a single generation of consoles.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, the PS5 and the Xbox Scarlet are on the horizon.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I really don't think, even with what they were giving us, this is going to release for Xbox One and PS4 exactly, even though this was teased during the PS3's lifespan. This game's been in development for so long.
Yeah, I mean, they had to scrap a whole development team out and start it from scratch again.
I know. But here's the thing. Even if you scrap that development team, I can tell many of the assets that were used in the OG trailer for this are still at the very least being referenced, if not used. And that tells me you didn't lose all of their work. You weren't truly starting from scratch. There was still enough there.
Yeah. At the very least, fixing up what was there, and because those developers were probably really slow.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Even if they were really slow, and this has made it last so long in the development cycle, I don't know how I feel about, one, keeping it episodic at this point. 2, if you're giving us an entire Final Fantasy's worth of content per episode, one of the key issues I have with that is, how much are you fluffing up each section of the game? Is it just some new bosses? Is it maybe extending the backstory of certain areas?
Some suspect it might be just adding in features and ideas that didn't make it into the original release.
And I'm cool with that, but that's per episode. Just those scrapped ideas won't fill it out enough to match that claim.
Fair enough.
And that's where I have a lot of concern. The art style and turning it into a more action-oriented RPG is not a bad thing.
No. I know somebody in my D&D group that finds it as a bad thing, but if anything, I find it as a great improvement. It's granted, there's nothing wrong with a turn-based battle system. I love turn-based games.
Yeah.
But when it comes to something like Final Fantasy, which has, over the course of these past few games of 13 and then 15, getting more and more action-oriented, it makes sense that they would want to evolve 7 in that direction as well.
And I'm okay with change. Honestly, I will say Crisis Core on the PSP is one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, and it's more action-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's done in Crisis Core is a lot different from what I can see, though. And the design, to me, doesn't match the scale of the original game. It makes me concerned about certain enemy types. Like the Scorpion boss, it looks fun, it looks cool. I like the Scorpion tank overall. It's pretty well designed. But in that turn-based battle, maybe it's just the way they play with the camera, the scale of that boss looked a lot larger. It looked like, with one of those legs, it could easily just trample you. Now, its legs about as tall as the main character, if not just a little bigger. It looks smaller, it looks a little more feeble, but it's more agile.
And I think that's the idea.
And here's my thing, though. I'm okay with such changes. It really shook me at first. But when we get to the stages where you're going against the secret bosses, the ruby weapon, the emerald weapon, things that are supposed to be the size of skyscrapers, where, you get a cutscene, the head of this thing is the size of your airship. How the hell do you plan on doing this fight? Am I just running around its feet? Can I not even see its shoulders?
Have it be like a Gears of War 2 situation where you're like holding a satellite gun or something and you're just shooting it for 30 seconds.
And that's my thing. Like, some of this, I don't know how it's going to translate. And I have hope. I want to see everything done well. I'm not mad about the episodes because, let's face it, the first game came on multiple discs.
Yep.
But a lot's going to change. And it's kind of hard, I think, to look at as an older fan of the series who grew up with it as a game.
Yeah, and I understand that completely.
That's why, I am so hard, and I'm like, I really do hope, they keep in that little scene where Cloud cross-dresses. I don't think it'll be a problem, but it's like, those comical moments are part of the tone of the original game.
Yeah, I mean, Lord knows if a remake came out of games that I played in my childhood, I'd want them to be up to par, if not supersede the original myself.
Exactly, and my issue is, how far are you willing to go to make it supersede the original?
Besides just being on more readily available hardware.
That's where I'm like, I like seeing that Square lost the code to Final Fantasy VIII. Okay? They've openly admitted they did not have the source code for this game. They threw out a lot of the old source code when they'd finished to make up more space on their servers. That was the policy of the company at the time. They've now, at the very least, found ROMs or some of the source code and been able to make a re-release of Final Fantasy VIII that's going to be on the Switch, and they're updating it with little quality of life changes.
On top of looking a lot better too, because I've seen some of the graphical differences between the original 8 and this new remastered 8.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not like a huge overhaul, though. They're not completely remaking the game. They're just trying to remaster it, make it more available, and change a few things that were complaints even at the time to be a little more accessible for people today.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to a remake, that's really where I like to draw the line. What they're calling a remaster is what I call a remake.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see the Final Fantasy VII remake, I really feel like maybe y'all are going too far. This is not just a remake of the original game. This is a reimagining. You're taking...
sorry, keep going.
No. Well, you're taking a lot of the stuff you added in after the game, too, and bringing it back to the original. And that does change the tone a little. Combat is still there. I love seeing like the materials on the blade. Things like that I don't mind. But when I do see that, just how dynamic it is and the fact they're really focusing on making it more like a movie, and I'm seeing a lot more of those pre-render, like in-game engine cutscenes, I'm like, maybe that's going to change some of the tone. And at that point, is this a remake or a reimagining? And that's my main concern.
That's fair. Because Lord knows some people have gotten some... Lord knows a lot of games have gotten some level of reimaginings in the time of, this stuff. Like that Link's Awakening game coming out, the remake of that.
Oh, yeah, no. Lots changing in it. But at the same time, I see that the map is not being expanded. They're not trying to make the game much longer, if any, than the original. It's almost trying to be a one-to-one recreation, just in HD.
Save for the dungeon making.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's an added mode for people who want to keep playing the game beyond the actual story. And to me, that's okay. It's not changing the base game in any way. I think there's going to be some quality of life improvements, of course, because I've played the original Link's Awakening, and some of it just is confusing as hell for me to get through. And I think they're updating a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Nintendo, compared to Square, they're dipping their foot in the water with the changes they're making, where Square's just cannonballed in. And a lot of the choices they've made have taken a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot, I think, of changes. And maybe it's not going to be as bad as I'm thinking in the back of my head. But I think when you're going so drastic into change and updating things, you really stand to lose the heart of a game that's already been made.
Yeah. I mean, Lord knows it's not that it's impossible for a revamping of an original game to, you know, it's possible for it to work, like with Resident Evil 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because that game doesn't have the fixed cameras, it's got a third-person deal.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing, though. They still brought back Tofu. You know,
Yeah.
they're still...
Tofu, Hunk.
Yeah. They stayed as true as they could. They've added a few things, like in the police department section. A few things were moved around, but they tried to stay as close as possible to the heart of the original game.
And you just feel like the Final Fantasy remake, as well as other things, are just not going to feel the same or not give you the same kind of warm fuzzies.
Yeah, and it really worries me. It does. Especially when like they re-released 10 and 10.2 HD. It was just an update of the game for modern hardware. They barely updated the models. It was just, coat of polish on an already good game.
Fair enough.
And then, you get Final Fantasy 8 and 9 being re-released. You get Final Fantasy 7 getting re-released.
Yeah, Final Fantasy
again,
12.
I don't want to talk about that. But that's the thing, all of these games, it's just a coat of polish. Re-releasing it for how I look at it is, if I already had kids, would I dust off my PS2, clear my old save data, and say, I grew up with these, have fun in their original form, or would I hand them my Switch, pay the $10 for a new one with some quality of life improvements, a little more polish, and say, hey, this is a game I grew up on. Maybe you'll like this. And to me, that's where I'm like, okay, the coat of polish for me is worth it. Because for maybe a new generation of gamers who never experienced these games, that can make a difference. They're going to see it with the coat of polish and probably see it with the eyes I saw the originals when I was like 9 and 12.
Yeah.
And
again, it's not like they're forcing you to buy the 7 remake immediately. Granted, It's probably going to sell like gangbusters, but it's we are under no obligation to have to immediately buy it. In fact, Lord knows you and I are probably going to end up waiting until reviews come out for it and see gameplay of it, like more gameplay of it.
Definitely.
But in any case, that's pretty much, I guess that must be our general ideas about E3. Overall,
yeah, heck, I think we talked more about Final Fantasy than E3.
Final Fantasy and Pokemon.
Final Fantasy and Pokemon, but that's my thing.
Just kind of goes to show about how lackluster this whole thing was.
Yeah. What I will say is and I know this is technical talk and doesn't really belong in the Level Up Yours conversation, but I want you to put a timestamp in the description here for our critique, our thoughts on Pokemon and our thoughts on Final Fantasy. I feel like this is the real discussion. There's no reason to separate it from the video, but
this is going to be embarrassing, but I don't know how to put a timestamp in.
Then I'll try to do it.
Okay, then I'll send it to you. All right, so with that being said, I think that kind of wraps up this discussion in a nice little bow.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've really touched on everything we could.
Yeah. So overall, Japanese game developers need to be on stage more. Keanu Reeves needs to be in more games. John Bernthal's dog looked like he needed a treat. And,
all the time.
And
Good point.
Every good
Nintendo
puppy
won.
needs a treat.
Nintendo won. So
Yeah, Nintendo won, and Devolver is at least best in show.
yeah. So with that being said, please, David, if you please.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, don't forget to like and sub below, and be sure to check out our social medias or the social media for the Open Couch channel in the description below. So thank you all so much for joining us. Have a nice rest of your day.
Yep. Sayonara.